Have you ever been ignored so deeply that even your silence felt louder than your words? This is a story about a man who stopped explaining himself and how that quiet choice changed everything. Daniel was an ordinary man. Nothing about him stood out at first glance. He worked a simple job, lived in a small apartment, and followed the same routine every day. Wake up early, go to work, come home tired, sleep, repeat. At work, Daniel was known as the quiet one, not because he had nothing to say, but because every time he spoke, no one really listened. In meetings, others talked over him. When he shared ideas, someone louder took credit. When problems happened, fingers somehow pointed at him. At first, Daniel tried to explain himself. He tried to defend his ideas. He tried to prove his value. But the more he talked, the less people seemed to care. So he started to change. Not on the outside, but on the inside. One afternoon, after another meeting where his words were ignored, Daniel walked home slower than usual. The city was loud. Cars honked. People rushed past him. And yet, inside his head, everything was quiet. He asked himself a painful question. What if I stopped talking? Not forever. Just stop explaining. Stop proving. Stop chasing approval. That night, Daniel made a small decision. A silent one. He would let his actions speak, and he would protect his energy. The next day at work, something felt different. Daniel still showed up early, still did his tasks, but he stopped raising his hand in meetings. When others argued, he stayed calm. When blame moved around the room, he said nothing. At first, people didn't notice. They were too busy hearing themselves. But silence has weight. And slowly, it started to be felt. Daniel used the extra energy he once spent explaining to focus deeply on his work. He learned new skills after hours. He fixed problems before anyone noticed them. He improved systems quietly. No announcements. No speeches. Just consistency. Weeks passed. One day, a big problem hit the team. A deadline was missed. A client was angry. The office was tense. Voices got louder. Excuses filled the room. And then someone asked a question. Didn't Daniel work on this part? All eyes turned to him. Daniel stood up slowly. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He opened his laptop. And without saying much, he showed the solution he had prepared weeks ago. The room went silent. For the first time, his silence spoke louder than everyone else. After that day, things began to change. People started coming to Daniel quietly, asking questions, seeking advice. Not because he demanded respect, but because he earned it. Still, not everyone liked this change. One coworker, Mark, felt threatened. Mark was loud, confident, used to being the center of attention. He began to test Daniel. Small comments, subtle jokes, trying to pull him into arguments. But Daniel didn't react. No anger, no defense, just calm. And that calm made Mark uncomfortable. Then came the biggest test. A major project was on the line. The company's future depended on it. The manager asked for volunteers to lead it. The room was quiet. Everyone waited for Mark to speak. But before he could, the manager looked at Daniel. I want you to lead this, she said. Daniel felt his heart race. Not from fear, but from disbelief. He nodded. Simply, leading wasn't easy. People doubted him. Some resisted his quiet style. But Daniel didn't lead with loud words. He led with clarity. He listened. He observed. He made thoughtful decisions. When mistakes happened, he didn't blame. When pressure rose, he stayed steady. Slowly, the team followed his rhythm. And the project succeeded. Not loudly, not dramatically, but solidly. The day the results were announced, Daniel stood at the back of the room. Applause filled the air. The manager spoke about leadership, about trust, about growth. Then she said something Daniel would never forget. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who don't fight for attention. They let time reveal their value. Daniel felt something shift inside him, a quiet confidence, a deep peace. Later that evening, Daniel walked home again. Same streets, same city. But he was not the same man. He realized something powerful. Silence is not weakness. Patience is not failure. And consistency always leaves a mark. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to react to every voice. You don't need to prove your worth daily. Sometimes the best response is growth. So if you feel unseen right now, if your words are ignored, if your effort feels invisible, remember this. Stay focused. Stay patient. Stay true. Because one day, without shouting, without arguing, everything can change. And when it does, your silence will tell the strongest story of all.